The rain fell in steady sheets over the cobblestone streets of Willow Creek, a small Vermont town where autumn arrived early and lingered like a bittersweet melody. Emma Carter wiped flour from her hands onto her apron, peering through the fogged window of her bakery, the Sugar Maple. It was nearly closing time, but the golden glow of the ovens still warmed the room, the scent of cinnamon and apple pie clinging to the air. She hadn't expected customers this late, until the bell above the door jingled, and a man stepped inside, shaking water from his dark coat. His name was James Wilder, though she wouldn't learn that until later. He'd rented the cottage on Pine Street for the month, he explained, needing a quiet place to finish his novel. I heard this town has the best coffee, he said, though his eyes lingered on the display case of pastries, not the carafe by the register. Emma laughed, handing him a maple pecan scone on the house. The coffee's terrible, she admitted, but the company's decent. He came back the next day. And the next. By the third visit, he brought a paperback copy of Pride and Prejudice, dog-eared and coffee-stained, and left it on the counter with a note, for when the pastries run out. Emma found herself reading passages aloud during slow afternoons, the words blending with the hum of the espresso machine. James began staying past closing, his laptop abandoned as they debated Darcy's flaws or argued over the perfect ratio of cardamom to sugar in her Swedish buns. One evening, as the first snow dusted the town square, James confessed he'd written nothing since arriving. I thought this place would be a backdrop, he said, tracing the rim of his mug. But it's become the story. Emma's heart stuttered when his gaze met hers. They lingered in the quiet bakery until the street lamps flickered on, their breaths mingling in the cold air as he leaned in, only to be interrupted by Mrs. Lowell, the florist next door, barging in to borrow vanilla extract. The near kiss became a rhythm between them, almost, not yet, soon. They danced around it during frosty morning walks through the pine forests, where James pocketed fallen acorns for her like treasures. They skirted it at the town's 4th of July picnic, where he fed her strawberry shortcake off his fork, syrup dripping onto her thumb. It wasn't until August, when his lease was up, and his agent's calls grew urgent, that Emma found the courage to ask him to stay. He left anyway. For weeks, the bakery felt too large, the silence too heavy. Then, one gray October afternoon, the bell chimed again. James stood in the doorway, a manuscript under his arm and a stray orange kitten peeking from his coat. I finished the book, he said, placing the pages on the counter. The dedication page read, For Emma, who taught me that home isn't a place, it's the person who makes your coffee terrible and your life extraordinary. This time, no one interrupted. Years later, tourists would ask about the framed first edition hanging behind the Sugar Maple's register, or the man who scribbled in a notebook by the window, a cat dozing at his feet. Emma would just smile, sliding a pecan scone across the counter. It's a long story, she'd say, catching James's eye as he mouthed the words thank you, not for the coffee, but for the life they'd built, one sweet, imperfect moment at a time.